So for our feature review this week, we are talking about the guy, if you're doing farming, if you're doing worker placement, if you're doing anything with a guy named Uwe, it better be Uwe Rosenberg, because that man knows how to throw down a game on the table. And we are taking it to the next level, not old-fashioned farming, or actually, in fact, we're taking old-fashioned farming and updating it with like super high technology, at least for Twitch is concerned. And we're ranking those games, man.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it's a silly thing. Like, you brought this up originally, and I was vaguely familiar with these videos. I think my son has watched a few of them, like Minecraft characters or Mario characters ranked like this. And
yeah,
I didn't realize how, you could just put any pictures you want in here. And I was like, oh, cool. Let's do Uwe Rosenberg. He's got a lot of games. And, we have some contentious opinions about some of them. So, yeah, we've got, I think I put 34. I have 34 of his games in here. And we're going to put them into the various tiers. We've got our buy, play, dodge, burn rating scale, of course. And then essential. We'll elevate some above the buy level, as these are must-haves, the absolute cream of the crop.
Absolutely. And again, everybody in their chat, everyone who's following us, obviously, unfortunately, we're not able to be embedded on Board Game Arena tonight. But if you do have a strong opinion, or if you'd like to help us with a tiebreaker, shout it out in the Twitch chat, because we'd love to hear from you. All right, Anthony, we've played, I think, practically everything here, which is fantastic, because all of Uwe Rosenberg's games have generally been just knocked out of the park each and every time. And eventually, like everything else in life, it needs to be ranked. Yep. And we need to see where everything kind of fits. So what do we have up first?
Well, I guess that's the question. How do we want to approach this?
Sure.
Because we could go in the order they're listed, or we could get the easy ones out of the way, right? Like, some of these we know are dodges or burns. There's only a couple. Some of these we know are essentials or buys. And then we, whatever's left, maybe we have the argument over. I don't know. Like, what do you think the best way to approach this is?
Well, I think the thing about most designers out there, I mean, they certainly have their best games, but typically the stuff that came out early is not always the best games in their collection. So why don't we start way back, at the beginning of his career, and then work our way up, because I think that kind of will give us a baseline.
Yeah. And so that's a good idea. It's kind of fun to go through these, because some of these I haven't even heard of, at least not recently. And the games I really never heard of, I didn't put on the list. He's designed 80 games or something, but a lot of them, like in the 90s, no idea what it is. So we're not going to dive into it.
You remember the 90s?
Way back when. So,
yeah.
So towards the bottom here, these lovely ones down here, we've got Babel, we've got Mamma Mia, we've got Mercator, Bargain Hunter, we've got Sagani, and we've got Yellowstone Park. So those are all games that came out before any of his big worker placement games. Bonanza is actually earlier than a lot of those, but I think that might even be a separate thing, because that game's not bad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think his early attempts of some of these games, it shows its age, it shows its oddity of theme, and he really just wasn't in the zone, as we will see for every other game that he has in his collection, with the exception of Bonanza. Everything else is totally one or two zones there. Right. So, again, some of these things are not that great. I guess probably the first one that just pops into my head as a game that I probably would never play is going to be Bargain Hunter. That's something that just, it's like, this is an Uwe Rosenberg game. It doesn't feel like an Uwe Rosenberg game. It doesn't look like an Uwe Rosenberg game. And generally, I'm just like, I don't want to, diminish the greatness of his games out there, but that definitely was something that if he could have went a little further down the line, he would be able to go, I wish I could just not put my name to that. So, Yeah, I'm gonna go with at the very least a dodge here. Do you see it going any lower or higher there, Anthony?
I don't think it's lower necessarily. It's just a nothing, right? Like I
It's a nothing
I think the
game.
nothing
Yeah.
games end up in that dodge ranking usually for me. It's got to be like aggressively bad to be a burn. Like offensive to my sensibilities. It's not offensive. I think it's just a simple enough worker placement or not worker placement, trick taking game, right? But
Yeah, the problem is that his stuff is so good that it's almost offensive that this game is in
yeah,
here. So that would be the only case that I could argue some of these games should be burned because they shouldn't be anywhere near his class of
right,
games.
right. Okay,
All right, why don't we take how about Babel next? I think Babel's a game that a lot of people have played from at one time or the other.
yeah. I don't know that I've personally played this one. Have you?
hmm Yeah, I mean, a long time ago. This is not obviously again one of his older
Right.
games, and again, unfortunately, despite the fact that he is taking on a new theme, which I do love here, it is another forgettable game. I mean, again, if anyone's going to get attention for his games, it's going to be Babel, and it's just a dodge. It's just a generic game. But there's some good older games here. We'll get to that in a second.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's safe to say, we've got Bargain Hunter, we got Babel, Mamma Mia, Yellowstone Park. I would throw all of those into the dodge category, not necessarily because they're bad. I know there's always going to be people out there who watch this and like, no, those games are good. Why don't you give them a chance? But there's a reason when somebody as famous in this hobby as Uwe Rosenberg has made so many amazing games that these have not come back in any form, right? No one's reprinting these. No one's retheming these. They're just dead in the water to some degree. And it's because they don't really fit the brand that is Uwe.
Yeah, I think a lot of his games run into that problem, and a lot of the games are like family games when he started out. Mamma Mia, and the chat agrees with me, is probably the only game that I might move up to the play level
Okay.
just because it's a family game that, utilizes some of the memory kind of mechanics. I mean, it's just a family game.
Right.
It's a well-produced family game from back in the day. So if you're looking for something family-based, I guess that's something I would recommend as far as like a light play is concerned. But yeah, I think I agree with you, Anthony. Everything else just fits in the kind of general dodge category.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm comfortable putting Mamma Mia up there in the play category. I would
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, the rest of them are like again, they were of their time and age, so to speak.
Right.
So that's a little rough. But yeah, that's kind of a thing.
All right. So those are like the big four going way back. Mercator is also from around that time period, but that's a little bit
Sure.
heavier of a game. That's like him getting into that Euro type of game, right? Like one
Yeah.
of the first ones where he's like, here's something with cubes, right?
You remember cubes. I'm gonna do the cube thing now. Everyone be really impressed with this now.
Yeah, yeah. So like I know I played this way back
Yeah.
in the day, and it was very inexpensive. You could get it for a long time. That's pretty cheap. But it's made zero
Yes.
impression in my brain. like there's a
Yeah.
lot of games that I played like before I started tracking games or whatever. And you'd think like if those are some of the earlier games you play in the hobby, you'd remember it. But I have no memories of this game whatsoever. I guess that speaks to it not being, high on this list.
Yeah, this one's a dodge for me as well. I think, as you said, this was a nice attempt at a game, but just never really landed. It was something that, I was like, oh, okay. Early in the day when Uwe Rosenberg was like the only name out there, I guess, other than Reiner Knizia and a couple of other people, you just gravitated. You try to grab every game possible to play, and this was one that I was really disappointed with.
Right.
So, yeah, this is definitely in the dodge category.
Okay. All right. So
Mhm.
now for like something completely different in the older game category, Bonanza.
Yes.
So this is
Yes.
the breakout game, right? This is what made him,
Yes.
a mega hit, especially in Germany. I know this game has had dozens of expansions. It's big here. It's super big there.
We played this game all the time, and it was another one of those games that was really funny because you were like, you never like, this is an Uwe Rosenberg game? Oh, come on. Like, I remember playing this probably about half a dozen times before I found that it was an Uwe Rosenberg
Yeah.
game. And I was just like, oh, all right. And again, it's so uniquely different about how you hold the cards in your hand, how you plant the beans, how you request stuff. It is a radically different game. Again, it's weird that it has not like been reprinted or updated anyway. It's kind of stayed as like really kind of, cutesy kind of nostalgia, but from back in the day. So yeah, I would definitely give this a play. I enjoyed it a lot. I could be convinced as far as if this game actually goes to a buy, because I don't think that there are many games, if any games like this, even to this day.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I would argue to put it up as a buy. I think it's wholly unique. I love the idea of, the order of cards and everything matters. Any game that does that, I love it. And there's so many different ways to play it. Like we have the duel on here, but there's also like, introductory version that's more suited towards children. Yes. I have that for my kids. And my son loves the puzzle of that. So it's like a really cool, interesting way to introduce those types of mechanics. And it all started with Bonanza. It's a game I thought I would hate. And even after the first play, I was like, I don't know if this is for me, but it gets in there, it sticks in your brain, and it's inherently social because of the way that you're swapping the cards around. So I don't know. For me, it's on that line, but I think I'd put it up and towards a buy.
All right, and the chat agrees with you, Anthony. I think I'll be happy to go along with that because I played this a lot, and again, I've never seen a game like this before. So yeah, Bonanza moves up to a buy.
Cool. All right, so we also have the Bonanza, the Duel on here. This is the 2-player version of this. I played this a couple times, and it was fine. It's like sometimes the 2-player version of the game is brilliant, like Seven Wonders Duel. Sometimes it's like, oh, this is a passable way to play this game. And for me, that's what it was. Yeah. So I would say that's a play. Do you agree?
I would agree. Yeah, I'd agree too.
Okay. It's not bad. It's not a dodge by any means, but it's not up there at that same level as Bonanza.
No. Yeah, you really need all the players to really, blow out a Bonanza.
Right. Okay. So
all right, what's next?
All right. So that's pretty much everything that's old.
Okay.
We have, I've kind of organized these a little bit, like everything in that top row, that's, his big box stuff, his worker placement type of stuff. You get a little bit further down, you get a lot of polyomino type of stuff, and at the bottom, it's just like oddball randoms. So,
his one-offs.
Exactly, yeah. I don't know what we want to dive into first. There's a couple of easy ones on here, for me at least.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Hengist is infamous for being horrible.
Yes.
And this one here. And part of it is he didn't really design this game, right? No. He just got his name slapped on it.
And to be fair, yeah, I mean, if you needed someone to like vouch for you, yeah, it would be Uwe Rosenberg.
Yeah. So I don't know the whole story behind that, but I do know that this game it's not really a Rosenberg game, not in the sense of like something born pure of his mind and he made a game out of it and he's like, this is good, right? Yeah. And you're like, yes, of course it is. It's bad. It's a bad game that I don't want to play. So for me, that's an easy one to drop on the burn pile because I would never buy it. I've seen it on sale for $5. I have most of these games I own, and it's just not what I'm going to pick up.
I agree. This is another burn. This is the lowest of his low.
There we go. Another one for me that, and I don't know if you've ever played it, so I don't know if I'm being too harsh on this game, but I really, really disliked Rakehold a lot.
Okay.
Did you ever play that?
I do. I actually own a copy of it. I don't hate it. I actually like the game. It's one of those. It's definitely on the lightest side of his. I got vegetables. I got to do something with the man.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate that. And again, it's something that is the family lighter situation. I played this with family, and they're like, "Oh, okay," and I'm like. This is probably the only Uwe Rosenberg I could get you to play at the table. That's one of his farming games. So, yeah. And again, this was on discount for quite some time. So, yeah, I did steer away from it because of that. But, no, I don't think it's a bad game. I own it. I'm happy to have it. I don't know if I'd pay full price for it. Probably not. But at a discounted price, it's a good game with the family, a light version at the table.
Okay. Yeah, that makes it tricky. I really disliked it. It was very expensive. It was boiled down to almost nothing. It was boring. I was immensely bored by that game.
Okay.
I'm surprised that you liked it as much as you do. So maybe we'll hold on that one.
Yeah, I mean, for a family game, it fits in that area. So we can throw it over the chat and see where it fits. Is it a burn for you then?
Pretty close. Yeah. I think when I rated it on here, I might have gave it a dodge, and I think I might have tried to play it again after that. And I was just like, I just got rid of it.
Hmm.
I played it one more time, and then I was just like, who wants it? Please take this away from me. I don't like this game. Um, and, like, when I collect a designer, I just tend to be like, I got to have all this stuff. Like, even, like, I own copies of games I don't like from Stefan Feld because I want all of them. Uwe Rosenberg,
Yeah.
I have everything on this page. I have almost all of them. And Ray Cold, I was just like, goodbye, go away. I don't like this.
Oh, Ray Cold.
I don't know, man.
Poor Ray Cold. It's not too far off as far as the rankings concerned, or even the ratings concerned. But you're right; it is definitely one of the lower echelon of his games in that kind of area. I think that's what's a little bit harsh about that. I mean, I would definitely give it a play. Can you see it as far is it better or worse than the what we currently have in the Dodge category?
Mm. I would say, for me, the highest I would go is a Dodge, but maybe we wait on it and see where everything else lands, and then kind of rank it on based on
Okay.
that.
I mean, I can again. It's one of those situations where it's a light play, as far as you said, or a dodge because like you said, you dropped a lot of money for it. And again, the problem with Uwe Rosenberg's games is he's so successful in what he does, especially in the polyominoes and in the farming games, that there is going to be a game that's just not going to be as good as the rest. And I'm going to surprise you a little bit later. So if you want to put that in the Dodge category, I'm fine. Let's drop that in the Dodge. Obviously, I picked it up on discount, so I can kind of see that.
Okay.
I can see people, if it's a full MSRP, then yeah, I would say Dodge. But if you get a chance, if it's at the table, you can pick it up cheap, which is what I did. Then it's a play for me. All right,
That's
cool.
right.
Let's get some more of those oddities out of
All
the
right.
way.
Yeah, so there's a few in here that probably you and I have either not played or not played very much. So
Sure.
we've got the Robin Hood game, Robin of Locksley. I don't know that this has actually come out here in the U.S. yet. I did have a chance to kind of run
I don't
through
believe
it
so.
online, and it was fine.
Okay.
Didn't hate it, didn't dislike it. It's, I don't know. It honestly, any of his games that kind of stray too far from that core formula. Like, he built a thing and he perfected the thing, and now he plays with the thing. And those
Did.
are all great. And then anything outside of that bubble, you're like, I don't know. So it's hard to know what I'm rating it on.
Well, he's like all those great musical artists that come on stage, and he's like, "I got a new song for you." You're like, play. I don't care about the new songs.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then, yeah, you're like, we only want new stuff if it sounds like the old stuff.
It's true.
Don't
I
do
haven't played
new.
this yet, so I will bend towards your opinion on this, or if the chat has something to say on
Yeah,
that
I mean,
too.
it's a light two-player game. It's like a solid 7.
Okay.
So I give it a play, probably.
All right. Yeah, that seems to be his kind of like it's very good for a certain population.
Yeah.
That seems to be his play area.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. All right, so let's see here. We've got Fairy Trails. Is that one you've played? Had a chance to play?
I got a chance to kind of go through it online a bit. They did have a module out there that you can kind of play through it. Again, it's not a bad game, but it's definitely one of those situations where it's completely forgettable for so many reasons. But again, that just might be because it's not his normal niche kind of situation. So I think that fits between a play and a dodge as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the artwork does bring it up, but the gameplay is a little simplistic. So I think that you could put that in the play category, just because it does fit that younger family kind of niche game. So it's definitely not at all in his upper echelon whatsoever, but it's kind of enjoyable. Yeah, yeah. So I'll put that in the play.
I think I agree. Yeah, it's super duper
Yeah.
light. It's 1 or 2 players, really just 2. And it's like
That's really
you're
it.
moving along a path, and that's about it. But that's good if you want something like we're not judging these on is it a big Uwe Rosenberg game. We're judging it on is this a good game, and I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's fine. And again, every game doesn't have to be a super heavy complex game. It could just be fun.
Yeah.
And that's really what we want. We want to have a fun game, especially with interesting decisions.
Right.
So really, if it has a couple of those things, especially for that particular group, I think that's important.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So moving on to, we've got a couple games that are similar. We've got Nova Luna, which came out early last year. Very clever little puzzle type of game. Plays really smoothly. I love this. I gave this a buy when I reviewed it. The problem was that it's like, 50 components and it was $50 because it's a Stronghold release.
Why? Why do they keep doing that?
I know. So I'm still saying buy. I'm not saying you should buy it, but in terms of the quality of the game, it's a buy. It's not essential. It's not that high of a tier, but I do love this game a lot.
Would you agree then, if it's that expensive for that game, but you definitely want people to play it, then it should be a play? Like, you want to play someone else's copy before you invest?
I mean, if the rating scale is purely based on economics, sure. But if we're talking about like ranking his games,
economics comes into play. Like Red Cold again is not the best game of all time. It's the lowest, or I wouldn't say it's the lowest. It's low for me as far as his farming games are concerned. But price wise, if it's significantly cheaper and with the right group, I could see that. Again, this does have some of the other kind of generic problems to it, but it's fine. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if we're saying to buy a game, like, is that something that you need to purchase, or is it something that you need to play and then decide if you need to purchase? And I think that the price point does come into play a little bit here, right? Because some of his games, especially for Uwe Rosenberg games, like, they're either super light and there's not a lot in the box and you're paying a crazy amounts of money, or they are super heavy and there's a ton in the box and you feel like you got your money's worth. So I don't think we can completely get rid of the economics. So I would say play, especially since it's a relatively new game.
Yeah, I guess I can't argue with that logic. Because, I mean, that's more or less what my review was. Like, this game's amazing. I love it. I'm glad I have it. You shouldn't buy it. It's crazy expensive. Don't support this practice, So this is more a review of Stronghold games, I guess, than Uwe Rosenberg.
Okay.
Play.
But I look, if you're gonna get bonus points for good production because you went with a good company, then you're gonna get dinged if you go with a company that's overpricing your games. I'm sorry. These games are a work of art. They're a work of genius. They're a work of math, but they are a physical production and capitalistic, product you have to purchase. So, that's a thing. That's the thing that happens. Like if you pay money for good artwork and the game's better for the artwork and the game costs more, you're like, oh, okay, but that's an investment. It's a financial investment.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. All right. Well, the next one's easy then. Sagani. It's a brand new one, but it's just based on Nova Luna. So,
yes.
And it's really about it's similar. Uwe's come up with a new thing, and he's going to make a bunch of games around it because that's what he does. So,
he is. The guy knows what he's doing. He's like, you know what works? Yeah. This. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this note all the days long.
Yep. The good thing about this game is that it's Eagle Griffin, so it's not $50. It's like $30 or $35.
I know.
So,
and it's gorgeous.
Yep. So I'm going to give this a play, even though we haven't really played it yet. Just watch the previews because it's almost certainly good because it's based on Nova Luna, which is amazing, and it's cheaper. So it'll probably move up to a buy once we play it.
All right. I'm fine with giving that a play because I think we do want to recommend people playing it. We're not one of those people that unfortunately got a review copy of this, but maybe one day. All right. What do you got next?
We got a couple more oddballs here. New York Zoo.
Yes.
New York Zoo is a polyomino type of game where you're placing different zoo animals out on your player boards. It's not pure it is pure polyominoes, but it's not like pure polyominoes like his Garden Trilogy, which we'll get to shortly. It does involve little animal meeples, and there are some other mechanics mixed in. It is a fairly light game, though. I was not particularly impressed with it. And it is like $60 because of how much stuff is in
It's
the box.
crazy.
There's a lot of wood, there's a lot of cardboard, a lot of pieces. I really wanted to like this game. Everything about this said you should like this game, and I just didn't love it. So I'm gonna make this easy because I know you haven't played it. And I'm gonna
Yes.
actually gonna give it a dodge,
Yes.
and we don't have to argue about whether this polyomino game should be higher or not.
I mean, honestly, like I'm like obviously you can hear from the accent. I'm from New York. I like the idea, but also I don't like the idea of of how would you say incarcerating all the animals in the world into the zoo. That being said, as you mentioned, also that he's done so many of these polyomino games that even I do expect a little bit better from him here. And I don't feel like, at least from looking at the game, that it accomplishes that. It's just like it's an overproduced polyomino game. And as much as I have my personal issues with either the theme or polyominoes, I would have backed this right from the start. I would have purchased it because it's Uwe Rosenberg, and I didn't because, again, the price and the overproduction of this game. So yeah, I'm fine with leaving it there too.
And I will say too, like that's just our opinion. Obviously, it does rate fairly well for this type of game from him. Um, it just didn't click for me. Like I know it's not a game you would like, but it is a game that I thought I would like, and so I did buy it. I pre-ordered it, and I was surprised that I didn't. I thought like I played this almost immediately, and I was like, oh no, I don't think I want to play this. I'd much rather play like Zularetto, or a game like that. And the zoo theme being what it is, but it didn't click for me. And it's $60. It's super hard to recommend.
Yeah, and like again, if you're going to, and you should hit a game for certain things, it's an overproduction of a game and an overprice
Right.
as far as a polyomino game's
Yep.
concerned. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit because I do think that some of Uwe Rosenberg's games deserved an extra tier level because of their price. And some of them are just like, what are you doing? Like, why? Why is that a
Right.
thing? So, yeah. And even the chat saying that the game was disappointing. So even our chat agrees with that as well.
All right. So
All
moving
right.
on, we got a couple rolling or flipping rights, I should say. Uh,
Uh-huh.
everybody got to get on the trend 2-3 years ago. Uwe was no different. So he did Second Chance and Patchwork Doodle. They both came out at the exact same time. I bought both of them at the same time. And Second Chance, I got rid of immediately. Did not like that game very much. And then Patchwork Doodle, I still have. The kids like it. It's not great for a flip and right, but it's cute and accessible, and you get to draw, so the kids like it. So Second Chance, the original edition of this, kind of used the artwork from like the Garden Trilogy. Now you can see it's got like this kind of Tetris style look. They made it look like the Gone Shown Clever covers. It's like the branding now from Stronghold.
Ooh.
It's you flip a thing, you draw a thing. It's I don't know. I don't think it's very good in the grand scheme of like flipping rights, rolling rights. It's not the worst thing I've ever played, but it's not great. So I don't know. Dodge for me on that.
Yeah, hard dodge. Yeah. There's no discussion. I would honestly even move it down a little bit lower, but yeah, let's call it a dodge and call it off. Let's just keep going because that's another very expensive game, and that's again a problem I have with the polyomino games, that usually it's very thin, cheap cardboard pieces, and the roll and writes are again a very cheap game. Like again, you're basically doing a lot of the work in those kind of games. And for that game to be that expensive was...
Well, this game wasn't expensive. It was only like $20. It's just...
I think it's expensive for what it is.
$20.
That's what I'm saying.
All of these games are $20. So I don't think anything costs less than $20 anymore, man. But
I could get some games. I could get some good games, yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't do much either. Like you're right. It wasn't super engaging. And I played it once or twice and I was done with it. So meh.
Mm-hmm. All right, put in dodge.
Patchwork Doodle is similar, but it uses a patchwork mechanic, so it's instantly a little more interesting and a little more fun. The thing about this game that makes it not much higher than a play or dodge or play is that it's not particularly hard. So it's good for kids. It's a good family type of thing. Like,
yeah,
I would not play this with other gamers because you can almost always fill in everything you need to fill in and maximize your score, and the scores end up being really close because of it. It's not super interesting. But with my children who can't play the more complicated versions of this is great.
Mm-hmm. All right, so where do you place it?
I give it a play.
Okay.
I'm sure you haven't played it, right?
I mean, I've played Patchwork. I haven't played the Doodle version of it, so if you feel it's a play, it's a play.
All right. All right, so there's that. Next up, Lahav Inner Port. That's a 2-player version of Lahav.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of this game?
I like it. It's one of those situations where Lahav itself, and I won't go into Lahav too much until we get to it, but Lahav is a very complex game, and it's certainly one of those situations where if you haven't played it and you're sitting down with a bunch of people, then you're going to run into all the problems. So the 2-play version of this offers a variation of the game, and it's a good variation. Not the best. I'd still rather play Lahav, but it's something that I would play. It's fine. It's not like, well, I guess cave versus cave kind of situation, which I do like better. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. All right, cool. So a play for that?
Play for that, yeah.
Okay. All right, so moving into the last of the Polyama notes before we get to the big box stuff. First up, Patchwork, which was the first of these he put out, and probably still the most famous and ubiquitous. Mm-hmm. For me, this is essential. This is one of my favorite games. It's on my top 100. I play this. I think I have 2 or 3 versions of it now because I got the Christmas version this last year for the kids. And yeah, I'd play this any day. Like, it's one of my favorite 2-player games, hands down.
Yes, Anthony, but it's essential for me too. Yay!
Oh! I thought we were going to have to fight about this one. I'm like, no, don't do it.
No, I love Patchwork. I was actually recently recommending this. Actually, it was the quick, essential kind of quick version of Patchwork. Patchwork
Express.
has, Patchwork Express. I recommended that to a friend who wanted to play it with a family member, and she was recommending what 2-player game, and I was like, if you asked me just straight out, 2-player game, I would say Patchwork if you're playing with like a non-gamer. But again, even if it's a little bit lighter than Patchwork Express is perfect, it's a lot more, I guess, a little cuter. It's a little more less complex as far as the polyominoes are concerned. This is in my top 100. I own this game, and in fact, if it didn't go out of print, I would have bought the Christmas winter version as well. So yeah, this is an essential game. I think that everyone should own Patchwork. I even bought the plastic buttons. I bought that from Board Game Geek store. So yeah, I'm fully invested. And the price is very good. So like you talked about earlier, like, yes, some of these games are all in the same price category, but Patchwork is a better game.
Yeah.
I just feel like it fits that right niche where it's like it plays just as long as it needs to. It's just as complex as it needs to be. And it just hits all the notes perfectly. The other polynomial games are like, this one's like every time it just hits everything.
100% agree. Yeah, it's amazing. All right, so that was easy. I thought it would be harder, but hey, we're on the same page.
I love it.
All right, we have 3 more polyomino games. This is the Garden Trilogy. So they released Cottage Garden, then Spring Meadow, and then Indian Summer. And so they are pure polyomino games. You get a big box of cardboard, and then whatever the rules are, then you're filling out your boards. My opinion on these is that Cottage Garden is good, right? This game was good. The other 2 games are not as good. All of them were too expensive. So I would argue I'd like to put Cottage Garden up at a play. I don't think any of these are a buy. They're too expensive for that. Spring Meadow and Indian Summer, I think I might have kept them just because you get the 3, you put them next to each other, it creates like a little picture, and I have a problem. But I have not played either Spring Meadow or Indian Summer since they came out, and I don't want to. They weren't particularly interesting to me. They fall really flat. Like I think Martin said on our Facebook question earlier, some games just fall really flat. These 2 fell flat for me. Cottage Garden worked.
all three of these games are incredibly expensive for what they are, and it's one of those games where when you get the box and you shake it, you're like, come on.
Yeah.
And again, I've actually played Cottage Garden. I haven't played Spring Meadow or Indian Summer, so I can't speak to that. But I think these were Stronghold games again.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, as far as, and again, I think these were like $60 for what was in the box. And these came after Patchwork. And I was completely stoked to buy these games. And I remember going and just lifting the box and going, really? It's a huge box. They're beautiful. I love the artwork. Yeah. And as you mentioned, like, you could sell me, like, hey, you know what, Chris, there's nothing in the box, but the boxes are nice. I'm like, yeah, I'll put that on a shelf or on a wall. Right. Because I really love the whole idea here. I'm actually sorry that they didn't go a little bit further and technically give us all 4 seasons. But the price was outstandingly bad, and for what you got in the box was completely empty. And again, it was like, if you could produce a Patchwork game, and obviously Patchwork had a little bit less on the component side, but it's still so great. I can't drop $60 in those games. I'm sorry. Like, I want to, but nah.
Yeah.
Drop me a trilogy big box from a designer and publisher who actually will, make it reasonable.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah. And with some rule tweaks too. Like, Indian Summer in particular just didn't do it for me. I think that's the weakest of the 3.
Sure.
Spring Meadow was close, but neither one of those replaced Cottage Garden, which in the first place was fine. Like, it was, like, none of these are in my top 100. I think Cottage Garden is like a 7 something for me. The other 2 are just below that. I don't know. It's an easy dodge, I think, for Spring Meadow and Indian Summer. I could say those are dodges. That's not a problem. Cottage Garden, I want to say play. I would never say buy, though. Does that make sense?
I agree. Okay.
All right.
And I'm being kind there, because I think that, again, that does a disservice generally. Yeah. All right. So are we up to date with the polyominoes? Are we all done? Are we all polyominoed out?
Well, there's one big one left, but we'll get to that. So it's a worker placement game with polyominoes. Let's do one more, and then we'll have only big box stuff left. Caverna Cave versus Cave. Where does that fall for you?
Caverna Cave versus Cave. Surprisingly, it's one of those games that I didn't like. I have Caverna. I've owned Caverna from the very start. I purchased like the big box. I spent so much money here. And then you and I played Cave versus Cave, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that they could do this differently and in some ways like better. I was so excited to play that game. The idea that, again, thematically, you're digging out this tunnel, this cave, in order to get resources. And as you reveal the tunnels and all the different aspects of it, it now flips over and becomes a space that you can use. It's a room now. And I'm like, this is brilliant. It's thematic, and yet it's like, I want to build, but every time I build, I'm giving you a chance to benefit off that building. I really like it. I own a copy of this. I'm sorry I don't own a copy of the newer version, right? There's a second version of this, and I think, in fact, they're coming out with a big box version that contains both of them, too.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing because it's a new version, but it's also an expansion. So you can play it standalone, or you can play it as like part 2 of one game, and stuff carries over from the original to the second version. So they tie together, which is a weird thing.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it to you, Anthony. I love this game. It's, again, one of my like 2-player holster kind of situations. Right. Like, if I'm playing with non-gamers, then I'm like Patchwork. If I'm playing with gamers, then it's Cave versus Cave. Again, that push-pull situation is fantastic.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's an easy buy for me. I mean, I was going to put it in buy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll drop it in buy, too. Sounds good.
All right. Big box stuff.
Strong.
What's easy?
Oh, here we go.
What's easy on here?
I know what's easy on here.
All right.
At the Gates of Loyang.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a strong buy for me. I love this game. It is one of those games, though. You talk about games where you pick it up and it feels super empty. There's not much in this box. It's a big bag of vegetables and like not that big of a deck of cards. You could fit it into a tuck box, probably. Not that you should. It's a heavier game. But when I picked this up, I was like, "There's shaky," you know, because it's not a bunch of tiles. There's no tiles. There's no cardboard.
No.
It's cards, two little bits of cardboard for your player boards and the scoring, and then the rest is, vegetable meeples. But it's also wholly unique from all of his other games. It doesn't feel like the other stuff. It's not worker placement. It has one of the best solo versions of any of his games, period.
It does.
Like, I still don't know why we can't get a good one like this. This one's so good. It's an easy buy for me.
It's a buy for me, too. Again, you mentioned a solo version. This is my go-to solo game. I now own a lot of games, including a lot of solo versions of games. And if I have to solo and I'm not thinking about it too much, it's going to be at the Gates of Loyang, just because the solo plays out so well. It's a little, it's a little clunky with the kind of like shifting the cards between the two players, how you play simultaneously. But it is a solid play, if not higher. I remember playing this game way back in the day, and it was out of print, and I stalked this game until I actually was able to pick up. So it's definitely a buy for me.
Okay, that one's easy.
Yep, see?
All right, so there's at least there's only one on here that I have not played, Aura and Labora, that I know you have, because you've talked about it before. So I'll let you talk about that one, because I finally got a copy not too long ago, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
So Aura Labora is interesting because, again, I picked up the newer edition. I was searching out the older edition for quite some time. They reprinted it, and I was really excited about getting this to the table because it utilizes this really interesting mechanic as far as how you kind of operate your resources, what's available, this kind of big kind of circle gear kind of situation. So no longer it was like a pile of stuff, but where that particular vegetable or resource happens to be, you do a press your luck situation where do you want it to let it continue to build, or do you want to pick it up before someone else picks up the resources? In addition to that, there are kind of two ways to play it because the cards go, I think it's French and German on there, and you're building up all of these different areas. So there is a huge spatial component to it. This is a game that a lot of people sleep on because, again, it's in the shadow of the big brothers here, but it is a very complex game. You do have to clear out your areas like Agricola. You do have to utilize the resources here, but you can also benefit from other people's cards, which makes this different. So it is I would say a very strong play, and I could even see a buy in that case, just because it is a different. So yeah, Aura Labora is definitely up there. It just needs an expansion, but yeah, I could see it as a buy.
You want to put it in buy?
I want to put it in the buy. Let's throw it in the buy.
We both do own it, so
we do. So and I paid full price for it too. So I was happy to buy it.
Yeah.
And again, it does give you enough components for the price point there, too.
Got it. All right. I will go ahead and do one that you have not played yet. And it's brand new, so maybe it's controversial to put it so high up. But I'm going to say Hallertau is a buy. I obviously just ranked it today, and I gave it a buy rating. So that makes that one pretty easy. I don't need to go on at length. You can just listen to the review from like 30 minutes ago. But yeah, it's a really solid new entry in Rosenberg's games.
Yeah, I watched a number of playthroughs. I paid full MSRP. I'm confident with that decision.
Yeah. Okay. Newsfjord. So this is a buy for me, but I have a feeling it's a little lower for you.
This is one of those games where like you took a good Uwe Rosenberg game and you just dunked it in a tank until like it lost all of its flavor. And I'm just like, why? Why would we play this? This is one of those situations where like Reichhold is like maybe way too light and way too simplistic. I played Newsfjord and I'm like, oh, cool. 2 resources that we're managing. Oh, cool. Here's some fish. Ooh, I get some fish. Cool. All right. Can I play a game that's a real Uwe Rosenberg game? Because this doesn't feel like that. This feels like he just got, I don't know. It's too much gefilte fit. I don't know what was going on here. He had it's just not a great game. It's just,
it is a great game.
If anyone else had produced,
it's a great game.
It's not a great game.
It is.
No.
It takes all the things.
Caverna is a great
Well,
game.
yeah, we'll get to Caverna. Caverna is amazing, but it's that you don't. Not all the games can be Caverna, right? It takes.
That's what I'm saying. It's not one of his great games.
Yeah, but it takes everything about what makes a Uwe Rosenberg game, and instead of it taking 3.5 hours to play, you can play it in 90 minutes with up to 5 people. It's great. And the solo version of it is fantastic. No.
You feel disappointed and you feel dirty after you smell like fish afterwards, and you're like, why? Why did I do that? I didn't need to do that. I could have played Patchwork like 4 times. That's
all right. Do we have to compromise and put it? What about a play?
I'm gonna have Reichel in the dodge, but we're gonna have News Forward in the play, right? Is that what you're saying?
We compromised on Reichel because for me it was a burn. So
all right. We'll split the difference there, unless the chat has anything to say about it.
Chat's on my side.
Right, and
if not, I have the mouse. So
there you go.
Power's gone to my head.
Clearly.
That's a funny one. I was always still like surprised how much you disliked it, but I was like, I thought it was great. I thought it was very clever. The first time I played it, I was like, wow, we're done already. This is awesome.
It's so basic. It is like pumpkin spice latte at like Starbucks. It's like, oh my God, like there's really good coffee out there and cappuccino, and you're like pouring like a bucket full of sugar and cream. Like I like pumpkin spice too, but man, like it's just generic. Like you'll see when we do other games here. We like other things.
We like other. Some of these games are great. Yeah. So what about Caverna? Right? I think of all of his games, this is the one I would consider of the big ones, the essential one. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Caverna does everything right, except not providing as much complexity as some of his other games, like Agricola provides. Obviously, it has one expansion already out, another expansion coming that adds to the thematic flavor to it. I don't know if you need the expansion. It just plays really well as is. Is it a hog as far as the table is concerned, and it's a long time to build up and break down. But despite the fact that it takes so long to set up and take down, people still request it. And that's surprising considering how many years it's been out. And I bought this at, I think, relatively full price, and I've still been very happy with it. I even bought organizers and things. So yeah, it's not just a good game. It's not just a game at a buy. It's an essential game. If you like worker placement games, if you like complexity to your games, it's essential.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. I'm glad we're on the same page on that one, because there's others. The ones left, where do we put Lahav?
Well, so Lahav, it's hard not to, put it in framework and context with his other games. Lahav is such a good game. It's at least a buy. The only downside to Lahav is, unlike some of these other games, and we'll talk about Agricola in a minute, unlike some of these other games, if you are not on the same page and the same skill level, or you come into that game, you get crushed. Yeah. There is just no flexibility, because it does play in a certain pattern. You have to understand, like, you will be able to get resources here, but not here, not here. You get them here. You'll be able to get your cards here. Like, you really have to, like, map out, plan out almost the entire game, in fact. And if you don't have that, and sometimes you have to get lucky too, because your turn order, based upon what you can get, is very, very tight. So if you're not in that right turn order, and what you needed was resources, and they're gone, you're done. That's it. You're done. That's the game. You're just like, we talk about splotters, but Lahav is just as painful.
Yeah. That's a perfect way to word it. It does feel like Uwe's splotter,
So, yeah, I can't give it an essential, but I can certainly give it a buy.
All right, I agree. I own it. I love it. I have turned down playing it several times, though, depending on who was playing, the number of players playing. Like, the one time, I think it was going to be 4 of us, and 2 people were new, and I was like, I do not have 5 hours right now.
Yeah, player count is essential in that game. It is good and bad at certain player counts. So I would agree
Yeah.
again because it's that very much like if you have different player counts, how the board reacts and the player reacts is differently.
Yeah. Alrighty. All right. Agricola, all creatures big and small. So this I've never actually played this because we all know my opinions on the main game. So I never had a chance to play this. Have you played this?
I have actually own a copy of it. It's fine. It really isn't Agricola because it doesn't have cards.
Oh.
Really, it's basically just kind of managing the worker placement element where you place the animals into the different pens. It's kind of forgettable, but it's also fine. So as far as that's concerned, I don't, if he would have named it anything else, I think it might have been done a little bit better. It's not as good as Cave versus Cave by far, so I can't recommend it as a buy. I could maybe give it a play. I don't think it's a dodge, but I think it's either very light play or I would say it's a light play. I would give it a light play. It's not a bad game. I would certainly, and the price is relatively good for what you get in the game, which is a lot of animeebles.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about the family edition? So I know they streamlined this game. They took a bunch of stuff out and simplified it, and it's like it's for families now. And I've not heard good things.
So there's always been a family version in Agricola in the rule book where basically you don't play with cards.
Right.
So that was, at least historically, that was the family version. And when the new versions came out, they did streamline the rules. They did streamline the boards out there. But it was, again, it was just, it wasn't what essentially is Agricola, which is the cards.
Right.
So I don't know if it's as bad as a Dodge is concerned, but it fits between the play and Dodge area just because it is a little, almost in a case, a little simplistic like Reichhold, but also it is a little more complex and kind of fits more in the idea of like a news forward, at least for me, as far as the weight is concerned. So it could kind of go either way. I'm going to say Dodge because, again, why would you own this and Agricola? Like, you wouldn't do that. You would play Agricola.
Yeah. And there's...
It's not... Yeah, there are other farming games that are lighter and easier. So, again, I like Reichhold a little bit more. You like News Forward more. I think then if you did want to do that kind of thing, you could do that with other games.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. All right. Have you played Fields of Arle?
I have. And Glass Road, too.
Okay.
I've played all... Yep.
So, I don't know if it goes up there necessarily, but on my personal list, I would consider Fields of Arle to be essential as a two-player. It's designed as a two-player game, so it is the big box game that plays best with two, and the expansion takes it to 3, and it works well.
It does.
But this is, if you want a big, long Euro designed for two people, because most of these games that are designed for two are either really short or they're like war games. So you want a Euro just for two people, it's Fields of Arle, right? It fits that niche, and it's honestly the only thing that really fits that niche. It also plays amazingly at 1. Now, it is a big sandboxy type of game. Some people don't love that. But, I don't know. It's if you ask me to keep 2 Uwe Rosenberg games off of this list, it would be really difficult to choose between this and the other 2 essential games that are up there for me.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you one question because I've played this at 2 players and I played the 3-player with the expansion. I haven't played this as solo. So your argument here, which I don't disagree with, as far as this is kind of like the essential 2-player Uwe Rosenberg heavy kind of farming game. Is this the 2-player heavy game you go to, or do you go to a Vital Lacerda game?
For 2?
For 2. Like, would you play 2? Like, solo and 2. Like, you're saying, is this the heavy solo game that you would turn to?
Not solo. 2, though.
Okay.
Yeah,
But 2. It's the best 2-player game that you would say?
In a Euro, yeah. It's a very narrow slice that we're talking about. Like, it's not my favorite 2-player game of all time. That's War of the Ring. But
sure,
for a Euro itself, just straight up, yeah, it is. It's...
I mean, I find this, it's okay. I don't feel it's essential for me. I don't own a copy of it as far as, like, a buy is necessary. it's a play for me. I did find like the whole carding action, it has a lot of similarities to Feast for Odin, but it's obviously a lot more streamlined than that. And there's like the left and right of the board, so to speak. So it's not, yeah, it's not bad, but honestly, I don't feel it's essential.
Okay.
I give you a buy on that because I think that it's obviously something that if you did see for sale, or even again, even if it was full price and you needed something for that right player count, I think it fits that area.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think we'd get it to essential. It is on my personal essential, but I know that it's not in that tier necessarily for other people. So I respect that.
Yeah, it's a play for me, but I'll split the difference with you and make it a buy.
Okay. All right, Glass Road.
Glass Road is a lot of fun. Glass Road has a recent reprint, which I'm still on pre-order for. So I don't think there's been any changes to it as of yet. But Glass Road, again, it is a variation on all of his other kind of farming games. But obviously this is all about building up industry and such. It's a fine game. Again, I'm waiting for the pre-orders so for me, it's still in the buy arena. It's still a good enough game. It still has enough complexity to it. It could use a mini expansion for the end, but yeah, it's a buy. I would give it a buy. I would recommend purchasing it.
I have this. I've played it. I liked it. I didn't love it. This is the one with the wheels, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it's a cool mechanic. It's different. I like when he finds creative ways to manipulate the resources. That's one of the reasons I like Hallertau. It's a high play, low buy for me, but if it's a buy for you, I'm happy putting it up there.
Yeah, I think we could put it up. It's either way for me too. I'm not tied to it, but I did buy it. So nonetheless,
as did I. Yeah,
I could.
All right. So now the two, they're probably just gonna both end up in play, so we don't kill each other. Agricola and A Feast for Odin. So I think we're on polar opposites here. For me, A Feast for Odin is a buy. And Agricola's a dodge to a burn because I really don't like it. And I have a feeling...
Hey, guess what?
Yeah, exactly. You're the flip, I would imagine.
I'm the flip on that.
And we've had this argument so many times. I don't even know how to make the case anymore. Yeah, Feast for Odin, man, it's everything. He just dumped literally everything into the bucket. And
it is.
So I understand when some people look at that and they're like, But for me, it's like Avengers Endgame, right? It's like everything's in there. It's great. It's Uwe Rosenberg. He's like opening the portals, and you've got like polyominoes coming through. You got workers coming through. You got there's a die in there for no reason. You're like, yeah, it's all here.
Oh god, it's so bad.
And then Agricola's
so bad. Oh, man. Well, look, I think that we can agree on this, is that both games are identical in being the nth degree, right? So Agricola is the nth degree when it comes to the cards, right? The actual worker placement element is some of the best worker placement, but worker placement. There's nothing radically different to it, right? The building of the farm is great, and it's nothing you haven't necessarily seen before or better somewhere else. The cards, really, it comes down to the cards. And again, there is a situation where there's a lot of cards, there's multiple decks, he keeps bringing out new decks, and again, if you sit down at the table and someone's like, all right, cool, let's play Agricola, then you have to go, well, what decks are you playing with? Because if you don't know the decks, you're not necessarily sure what you're drafting. And if you don't draft, then you're getting a random hand of cards, and someone just might win based on the hand of cards. So it does have that, block that doesn't allow easy approachability. But I've played this with just gamers for the first time, and they get it. Again, it's just a matter of like the cards of the dense part. Feast for Odin, as you mentioned, it does feel like it's literally everything he's ever done. It's all the polyominoes. It's all the worker placement. I mean workers. Like you're throwing multiple workers just to activate a spot. It is all of the farming-esque placement. You get this giant board and it has all negatives on it. And you're like, cool, fill this out. And I'm like, All right, I filled it out. Would you want another board? Would you want another island to fill out? You know? And then even the polyominoes part, which I'm not the biggest fan of, although Patchwork is essential for me, where like you flip it over and it's a different piece. So management, organization, it's a fiddly game. It's just it's like it gets 3 fiddles for me. 3 out of 4 fiddles. It's just all the fiddles. So on the same thing as you do. I do respect people who love Feast for Odin because I get it. Like I get it. Like it has everything. It has polyominoes, it has worker placement, it has feeding your Vikings. You know, like you gotta put these odd shaped foods in the right order to be able to fill the whole table. Like, okay, like, so, yeah, all right. Well, look, I think that we both agree, at the very least, that people should play both of these because there is some. And I'm not saying they're essential, but I think there's an essential quality to both of these games, right? Both of these games, you can't argue that they're classics. You can't argue that they're going to be here forever, right? They're going to be modern day classics. Whether or not you want to play them, or if you feel like how hit in the head you have to be, that's a different story. So I think that we can both say that they're both plays, right? They're not. I get the fact that you want to burn Agricola because I want to burn Feast for Odin, and honestly, I think I get more heat out of the Feast for Odin. There's just a lot more stuff.
There's a lot of bits in there, yeah.
It's a lot of bits in that box. Dodge. I mean, can we recommend? Look, they're both obtuse, right? Can we say they're both obtuse?
Yes.
I think we could agree to that. The cards and all the stuff, they're just obtuse. So, plays. I mean,
I think so. I think whatever we do, they kind of have to be in the same tier, just because we're both on the same page. And the thing is, like, I recognize Agricola is his most recognizable game, and I don't care. Like, I'm just like, I don't like it. From a pure argument standpoint, I'll even make your argument for you. It should probably be higher, but there's no way I could let Feast for Odin go below play, and I don't really want Agricola higher than a play, so that's hard for me.
I feel like you get shackled down when you play Feast for Odin because not only is it a long game, but there's so many thousands of pieces and like, hey, can you find the bread tokens? I can't find the bread tokens. Oh, you got to flip over the roast tokens. The bread's on the other side. And you're like, yeah, okay.
You got to use the trays. They come with trays, and then you put some on one side and you put some on the other and another thing. That's what it's for. It comes with the trays.
But the tokens are going to flip over. The tokens are going to flip. They're not going to stay one-sided.
You punching the table? What are you doing over there?
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah, this is going to be a compromise where neither one of us is happy.
Oh, man. So the chat's saying that, you know, there's obviously someone here is saying, yeah, Feast was too much. Someone's saying that some games were meant to put in digital form. Yeah, I would agree. I think if Feast for Odin was in a digital form, it would be a lot easier to consume. We don't have that in digital. We do have Agricola in a digital version. You can play digital Agricola. There is a video game version of it.
It's a bad.
It is bad.
It's old, right? It's one of the first ones, so it's not very good.
Well, they did a good job when they came out, but the problem is, it's like there's the action board screen, then there's your own farm, but then you also have to see what everyone else is doing. So it's really hard to follow. You need to get the whole thing mentally on the screen somewhere. Yeah. So obviously earlier people were talking about Board Game Arena picking up Agricola, so they should do that. Maybe they should do the same thing for Feast for Odin. So let us say we'll put both of them into play.
I think so.
With our very own asterisks. I think that Agricola's higher and Feast for Odin is lower, and vice versa for you. And we can move on with Uwe Rosenberg. Maybe maybe one day he'll be able to split the difference.
Yeah, we'll get we'll throw some polyominoes in the Agricola universe and give Chris an aneurysm.
Don't do it, man. Don't do it. Leave it alone.
Oh my God.
It's had multiple revisions.
I would love it so much if he was like, Agricola, the Feast for Odin edition. Chris, you have to buy it.
You already have that. Feast for Odin's... Oh my God. It's so many pieces. So many pieces.
Yeah. All right. So are we happy with everything on here right now? Is there anything we want to move?
Let's see. Patchwork and Caverna. I think we all agree. The chat agree is essential. I think
Yeah.
let's feel on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. Like, if you're going to take any two of these games and just recommend them as, like, the pure distillation of what Uwe Rosenberg does, it's those two.
Yeah. And again, I think you could possibly, because it's a very different game, but you could possibly make an argument that Bonanza is an essential game because it is a modern day classic that has never changed. Like it's been there forever.
It's true.
It's just one of those things that it's just like such an oddity
Yeah.
that I don't think that people are going to necessarily just want to own it. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable with telling people you should own Bonanza because it's unique in its so many different ways. Like I think it's an acquired taste. It's a weird, odd, beautiful game, but it is one of those things where you can certainly see as an essential for many people out there. I know Daniel back in the day, that was one of his favorite games of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. Like, I would consider it like of that quality, but yeah, because of the weirdness of it, it's difficult to say. Like, Patchwork is the two-player game for Euro gamers, right? It is the, like, if you're going to recommend 5 two-player games, it's in that list of 5. If you're going to recommend 5 worker placement, 5 Euro games, period, Caverna's in that 5. So, I don't know that anything else here really rises to that. So I'm happy with where those are at.
Yeah, again, it's just one of those situations where a lot of his games are unique. Obviously, they break down to like 3 categories. Like there's the farming, there's the polyominoes, and then there are the, straight up oddities here. And Bonanza is the best of all the oddities, and it ranks high up there, of course, everything else there. So yeah, I think it's definitely up there, but I don't think it's essential for everyone's collection. It's not. I don't own a copy. I don't know. Do you own a copy?
I have the kids version.
You
I have
own
the family version.
You have the kids version, but you didn't feel the need to own the big version. That is
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
All
it.
right.
It's a funny game, but like it's also very specific player counts and the types of people you play it with. So it's the kind of thing like if I'm with people who want to play it, somebody has it, so I'll play their copy, and then it's good for family, so I have a family version.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, not essential for everybody, but it would be that one game that is odd enough that on every other full moon that maybe it pops up to that category.
Right.
All right. So that is our list, our tiered list of Uwe Rosenberg games. Obviously, there is a lot of discussion to follow this. Please hit us up and let us know what your list is, where you think certain things rank. If you love or hate them or feel like they deserve to be somewhere else, we would love to hear from you and hear where you actually place everything, especially Bonanza. That's definitely a conversational starter. At the very least, you should definitely buy the game because it's something that, is good to have. All right, Anthony. So that's everything for this week. Until next time, this is Chris.
And this is Anthony.
And we'll save you a seat at Uwe Rosenberg's tiered table. Take care, everybody.
Bye.